please remember to leave a like, a comment, share the video about, and if you haven't already, subscribe. Thank you. Well, isn't this just fantastic?
Captain's log, subdates 231005.8. We're going to need to install a reasonably sized medbay to remove the battle barge from Bork's battle-scarred booty. I have a bit of a feeling here that I'll need to replicate a whole new lower half for Bork, which is a whole lot of effort. Hello everyone, welcome to the exhibition of stupid people. Today we're going to start with something strange. It's UK law that's being changed that I don't agree with. In fact, I tweeted, not entirely sure that this is a good idea. Many people who replied to me, well, it'll make for interesting stories, it's a bad idea, what if they end up unknowingly dating their parent? That's something. This is a bad idea and surely it has to be from both directions. So Lottie makes a valid point. You don't even know the story yet. Of course, that raises a number of issues, of course, that should be considered. But the story itself, well, okay. So a UK law allows for those who turn 18 after the Sunday that's just gone to be able to find out the identity of their sperm donor. To do this, they're using an example of those in the thumbnail image, Matthew and Phoebe Betts. They're 16-year-old twins who spent their lives wondering who their father is, or their donor is. Father is the one that raises you after all. When they turn 18, they'll be able to apply to find out his name and last known address if they want to find out where they came from, because that's what the donor wants. To have some children turn up at the house saying, "Hi Dad," that's going to be an interesting discussion. What they know about their donor is that their dad's build, eye, hair colour and some of his hobbies such as photography, swimming and the guitar, along with having a master's degree in business. So at least one of them's smart, right? When they turned 16, because of changes to UK law, they were able to ask the UK fertility regulator for some basic details about their donor. Their parents had used sperm from a UK clinic to conceive, so they were surprised to be told the donor was Colombian. So what I'm hearing is the parents went down the IVF route because the father was infertile, and what happened was the donor was successful where the father that raised them was not. So naturally, because they found out that they have a Colombian biological father, they no doubt want to get in on the smuggling business. More than 70,000 donor-conceived children have been born in the UK since 1991. In 2005, legislation came into force removing anonymity for anyone donating sperm, eggs and embryos after that date. Now I, again, disagreed with this. I understand the issue around, well, dating your own parent. Of course, that raises issues with your own taste in people. But that is very much the extreme to what would ordinarily happen. And I think it is dangerous because those children are going to want that man in their life or woman in their life to some degree. And I don't agree with that. A donor is not somebody who took on the responsibility or wanted to take on the responsibility. They donated a part of themselves to help some others bring children into this world. That is certainly applicable to the Betts family. But the children, now knowing they come from someone else, are essentially disrespecting the people that raised them. And that's what it is as well. I know some of you might disagree with that stance, but I tend to think this is a very unhealthy attitude to have. Knowing who they are changes nothing, really. Do you think they're going to want to get to know you? They're a donor after all. They haven't been involved in your life for the majority of it, beyond the part where they donated a part of themselves to bring you into the world, so another family, the family that raised you, could in fact have children of their own. Now what's interesting in the case of the Betts family is that they actually waited on purpose until the 2005 law change before starting the fertility treatment so their children could eventually access the information. Quote, "We just really felt it wasn't fair on any children we might have to deny them that opportunity." This is so sad, and it really is, that the twins are hoping to then track down and meet some of their 10 half-brothers or sisters known to have been born from their donor's sperm between 2006 and 2008. Personally, I think you should be grateful with the life you have with those that have given you this life in the first place. I understand the family are showing a level of understanding in ensuring that you then don't grow to resent them. I still think it's unhealthy to be able to have, because of UK law, the right to know who they are. They are our donor after all, and there were changes to the law as well where some people were then able to claim child support. That made zero sense to me. They were a donor for a reason, either to pay a bill, a drug habit, or because they wanted to help a family out. My main concern when things like that happened was that it would lead to a decrease in donations, that would then inhibit one's ability to have a family of their own. And while I have no doubt in my mind, because I'm going to be an idealist for a moment, that the man who donated to create the twins would totally want them in their life, I cannot say that would apply to the majority who donated just cause, or because money, or because other reasons beyond having children of their own. I fully believe in anonymity because this leads down a path I think could be more damaging than... So let's move on to something a little bit different. For the next subject, we're going to talk about the world of boxing, but I know that many within my audience don't care for boxing, even though I love boxing. I would hope you'd like to love boxing as well, but never mind. We're going to talk about a false accusation that led to a trial and an innocent man being put on trial for a crime that wasn't really a crime when you really think about it. Glenn McCrory, formerly IBF World Cruiserweight Champion, known as the Northern Warrior because Newcastle pet, was a guest speaker at a pre-fight dinner before the Anthony Joshua and Alexander Usyk World Heavyweight title fight at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium back in 2021. Afterwards, he spoke to a number of waitresses, 3 of them. One of them, he used the term pet in an overly flirtatious way. You heard that, the cat sneezed on my lap. In an overly flirtatious way, but as many know in the United Kingdom, Geordies use the word pet quite often. It is a part of their natural and rather backwards dialect. Yes, I'm from the south, I'm going to look down on you while you are up there. According to Glenn McCrory, when he arrived at the venue, the member of staff who greeted him did not know who he was and said she could not find his name on the guest list. He had to lean down to speak to her because she was small and because he tall. It should be noted he had no recollection of touching her. Quote, "I just leaned down. I may well have touched her elbow, but I'm a big guy, so I'd never be forced." The court showed the CCTV footage at the entrance with Mr. McCrory. It showed him talking to one of the alleged victims. He does touch her elbow with a hand as he leaned down to speak to her. He told the jurors that he was asking her where his table was and that he touched her elbow due to height difference. So the accusation brought forward is that he has assaulted them sexually by being overly flirtatious, yes, by using the word pet and touching the elbow of the waitress who could not find his name on the guest list. After he'd given his 20 to 30 minute speech, Glenn McCrory returned to his table. He hadn't been given a starter after being told one would be kept for him. He then tried to raise this to one of the servers and had a troubled reaction to his use of the word pet. Yes, he used the word pet again, and this is a problem. So to get the waitress's attention, he did, because she refused to look at him after using the word pet or acknowledge his existence, he did grab her elbow or touch her elbow. She then turned around and said that it was in the bin. The CCTV footage, played to the court, showed him interacting with other guests at the event. A number of people were taking selfies with him as he hugged and put his arms around them. This was to prove a point that he was being very tactile and friendly when in the right environment. When the waitress lodged the complaint, she had claimed that Glenn McCrory touched her in a sexual manner without consent, repeatedly winking at them and slurring his words. Just a little detail about Glenn McCrory, because he's 6'4", and owing to damage to his eyes from his boxing career, he has considerable amount of scar tissue on his eyes and around his eyes. If he can't see you, he's going to reach out and touch you so he knows where you are. This is known. If you know anything about boxing, you know that about Glenn McCrory. He was, because the evidence against him was absolute nonsense, cleared of sexually assaulting 3 waitresses. He was accused of S.A. Are you out of your mind? The service was appalling. That's what he said. When one was meant to have something for him and it was then told to be put in the bin, the service was hardly off to a good start. He tried to get the right people's attention who took offence to his northern dialect. It's remarkable how in society many are told to respect others' cultures, cultural norms and practices. Apparently that's not a thing in England, in London, a multicultural city, apparently. The next subject's quite an amusing one. It's dumb on the face of it, and it's ended up with somebody getting a criminal record. Ebony King offered to lend an old family friend £50. When the person paid her back, they overpaid by hundreds of pounds. At the age of 19, she had top marks in school, secured a place at London University to study psychology. The friend repaid her around this time and promised to transfer the money to her account. When she went to withdraw it, she noticed she was given far too much for what she had offered. She called them to let them know, and he said it must have been an accident, and could I please get the cash back from the account and give it back to him? She didn't question it and handed him the cash and thought that was the end of it. 6 months later, the police raided her mother's house in Dagenham, with them declaring they were going to arrest her and take her to the station, but she didn't even know what for. It emerged that the money sent to her account was the proceeds of an online scam. By allowing the money to sit in her account and cashing it out, Ebony had become a money mule and complicit in the handling of laundered money. As a consequence, Ebony got a criminal record and was convicted of concealing, converting, removing and transferring criminal property. The family friend vanished and was never charged nor convicted. This, on the face of it, is beyond levels of dumb. A family friend you trust gives you money, you don't know anything about anything, but you get into so much trouble. It took 12 years. 12 years to get her criminal record cleared. It should have been done in 5 minutes before the criminal record was even considered. And considering it was only a few £100s, I'm somewhat impressed you made a concerted effort to go for her, but you somehow couldn't track the scammer down. The very idea of someone becoming an unwitting money mule amuses me. Of course, I don't think it right that Ebony have to suffer the way that she did for what someone else did to her with her not even knowing what the hell was going on. But at the same time, the police really do have their priorities right, don't they? So courtesy of Sugar Tits on Twitter, Disney's Bambi, the remake they'll be doing at some point in the near future, will tone down the death of Bambi's mother because parents these days are more sensitive, courtesy of Geek Tyrant. Now, I didn't bother to find that as an article, I couldn't be bothered. I instead went to one that tickled me even more. Forbes. New Bambi cause conservatives to cry woke because remake may go easier on Bambi's mum. Screenwriter Lindsay Anderson Beer, who isn't even attached to the movie any longer, told Collider not to spoil the plot, but there's a treatment of the mom dying that I think some kids, some parents these days are more sensitive about than they were in the past. I assume this will be the father that dies instead. The mother must be preserved because empowerment. Now, Lindsay suggested the writers wanted to remake it in a way that kids today could relate to a little bit more, stating some audiences may just not be able to handle the death of Bambi's mother. I think if that's the case, that speaks volumes about the level of delicate the current generation and the former one or two generations here are compared to the generations that grew up with Bambi's mother dying. Although I should be honest, the only character I remotely remember is Thump. I thought the name Bambi was for something else. I really didn't know. I don't really watch this shit, and I certainly don't make it a point to watch the live action remakes because they're just cash grabs. They're not very successful cash grabs, but they are nonetheless. The comments that Beer made gained traction among right-wing media commentators and social media users, with people criticising the film for being remade to appeal to woke audiences. Critics conservative ones, have condemned a wide swath of brands, celebrities and films as woke this year, typically because of themes or activism that supports the LGBTQ community or diversity. I think it's more the diversity part, or changing a story entirely yet sticking an original name to it. Original being from the former story it is apparently a remake of, High Snow White. It's not even out yet. The diversity thing is the issue though because it is force-fed in so much. I saw someone post a video on Twitter and I wished I kept it, where every single ad that they showed was just a mixed race couple, and that included children. And people find this to be quite irritating when it is quite clearly shoved down your throat, yeah? But personally, I don't generally make it a point to watch ads, unless it's for a creator I'm quite fond of. There are none of those left. Disney announced the remake for Bambi in 2020, and it is highly likely to be very similar to that of The Lion King. My view on changing the story to appeal to a current generation, I think is a silly idea to do, but I think it's silly and understandable. Understandable because this is what has happened. Society has become more sensitive. More sensitive, understandably so. That generally does happen at times of peace. It really does. Also silly though, because the original story will still be seen by anyone if they want to see a better version. So what's the point of changing the current version when the original will still exist, unless you intend to erase it? Also, the importance of Bambi's mother dying was kind of fundamental to the path that Bambi took in the story. How you're going to rework that, I'm not sure. Are you going to go with a Fresh Prince approach? I wanted to be quirky here and do like a West Philadelphia born and raised, but West Forest somewhere born and raised, until, got up to no good, started making trouble in the forest and neighborhood, and then lives in Bel Air, right? If you don't know the lyrics to Fresh Prince, you're dead to me. I'm going to end the video here, by the way, folks. Sorry about that. This would be a longer, better edited video, but I got stiffed on over. Sorry. Ta-ta, everyone.